For those who don't know, Worship Central is kind of a movement of worshipers, worship leaders, musicians, with a vision to see people encounter God, be equipped as worshipers so that we can see local churches being empowered. And it kind of began about 8 years ago. I remember I was at an event in London, and there's about 2,000 people who were worshiping, and we had the band in the middle. It was in the round, and I was standing right at the back. And there's just this kind of big crush of people, and you couldn't quite see where the band ended and the kind of congregation began. It's just like a mass of people. And I was standing at the back worshiping, and I really felt God say to me that, Tim, what I'm in the business of doing is raising up an army of worship leaders. Rather than being one or two who sort of travel all over the place doing the stuff, that what would it look like if every local church in every country throughout the globe had anointed, passionate, humble, creative, crazy in love with Jesus worship leaders who would be willing just to give themselves to pour into local churches? That would change nations. And so that's really the vision. How can we mobilize an army of worshipers and leaders who will worship Jesus with all their hearts and see churches, cities, nations transformed? There's an amazing quote, which I love, by an old Archbishop of Canterbury in England. It says this: "This world can be saved from political chaos and collapse by one thing, and that is the worship of Jesus Christ." And I believe that as we learn to sort of live according to the life of Jesus, sort of center our existence upon Him, kind of align ourselves to Him, then actually we're transformed. You know, to worship is to change. If you encounter Jesus, if you see Him for who He is, if you get stuck into His word, you can't help but be changed with the Spirit alive inside of us. And as we are changed, we begin to become a people who bring liberation, freedom, change, and transformation to cities. It's why I think often it breaks my heart when you look at churches and you think, this doesn't seem to be the cutting edge of creativity about how to live life well. And I think that's what we're beginning to see. It's why we're so grateful for churches like Hillsong and the creativity there that isn't just kind of good within the church. It's like leading the way within the world, I believe. And actually, I think, again, we're going to see the church become a hotbed of creativity where the world are knocking on the door saying, how do you do this stuff? And so, again, this is part of the vision with Worship Central. How can we release leaders? And rather than it just be something that's held from the UK, just to share a common vision. So to see what you've done, Pete, and a whole bunch of people in Canada is amazing. You know, I got on a plane, I came here, I barely had a clue what was going on. I've just sort of rocked up, and part of this amazing conference that you guys have put on, and Mark heads up Worship Central in South Africa, and last April went over there, and a similar thing, just an amazing conference, training and equipping leaders. And the quality of people we're meeting is just blowing my mind, and it's so exciting. So that's what we're wanting to do, and that's why it's amazing you guys are here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just in Canada, we started everything 2 years ago. I think it was May when really it was just a group of 10 of us that just were thinking, how do we bring the vision of Worship Central to life? How do we equip? How do we empower the local church? How do we encounter, but in our context? And Canada is a really big place, but how do we even just bring it into the BC context, into the Vancouver context, Richmond, Surrey? So, we gathered and we met for 6 months, and I've told everyone we've disagreed on a lot of things, on how we want to do things. I mean, it's not easy coming together, but you have the choice to do it, and it's your choice to come and do it together, or you can do it by yourself. And I mean, we have our ways, but I would love to be a part of something with all of you. And so what we did was we thought, okay, so from this moving forward, we're going to just have hubs of worship leaders gathering in different regions of Vancouver, of BC, and then eventually we had Canada. So now we have, going into 2016, we have 10 different regions that have hubs. And what these hubs are just, gatherings of worship leaders who are coming together, and we gather on a Saturday morning. We do it quarterly, and we get to pray together and worship together, and we get to sow into each other and resource each other. We've had I remember a story of a woman who came, and someone was telling me that this lady, she was the only worship leader at her church of 50, and she felt so burnt out, and she's only a worship leader because she's the only capable musician, apparently, at her church. So felt so burnt out, and so she came to our group, and she just felt so encouraged, even just being a part of that, and being prayed for, and being just having loads of things just spoken into her life, and how God was working through that. So I say that, there's like 600 of you here. I always say this, there's 600 of you here, but the impact of this is huge. I mean, you are leading your congregation of 50, 100, 1,000. And so when you change, the climate of worship in yourself, you're changing the climate of worship of your church and the community and the people around it. And I think that's the beauty of what we're trying to do together as a church. And you always said Worship Central is just an excuse for us to do it. I mean, just gather and just meet and just continue to engage God.
I was going to say, when I was 11 years old, 1989, I went to this conference in the UK, and there was a guy leading worship called Andy Park, who's from just up the road. And I remember walking to this room, there's about 1,000 people, and I'd never experienced God like that, and I'd never seen worship like that. Just these simple songs flowing together, being spirit-led, the creativity. And I learned the guitar, learning all of these songs from people like Andy Park and Brian Dirksen. Faithful One is still probably my favorite ever worship song of all time. And I lift my eyes up and the river is here. And this area had such an influence on my life and on many of us in the UK, and actually many around the world, in terms of worship and pioneering and songwriting. And I've said this once or twice when I've been here before, but I really believe God is stirring stuff up again in this region, and that there are going to be songs that come out of here that are going to really impact people all around the world. So I want to encourage you, if you're here, God is inviting you to be a part of that, whatever that looks like. But God is doing something. There's a rich heritage here that it's not, it wasn't for like 15, 20 years ago. It's for now. It really is for now and for the future. So it's exciting to be here.